DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
There, finally, we're there. Goodness gracious.
We made it.
We did. It's like pulling teeth to get us live tonight. I don't know why that is. It's like, come on, just go, man, go.
Yep.
But hey, we are here. Thank you for joining us tonight. It is a lovely Wednesday night here in the Upper Midwest, and we're going to be talking about some photo booth, iPad photo or tablet photo booth things. We're going to be talking about music, and then we're going to be talking about backup gear in our 3 shows for tonight. And then we're going to be giving some things away during our shows this evening. So kind of a lot of ground to cover here tonight. And we're going to be starting out with Brandon here. Good evening, Brandon.
Good evening, John. How are you?
I am doing well. Brandon Havrilla was with us. He's been with us a couple of times talking about using tablets and iPads and such for photo booth. And goodness gracious, Brandon, after our very first show, the number of people who have been asking questions and such was just incredible. And then I think I was at a DJ show. I think it might have been DJ Expo. And because we did the show, people were coming up and asking like I was an expert in this arena. And it's like, I'm not that guy. If you might remember the other guy in the video, Brandon was the one who knew what he was talking about. I was just like, ooh.
See, and I've been telling people the same thing about you. I've been forwarding them your way.
We're going in circles here. And now everyone's confused. But yeah, since our last or our first couple of shows, and we were talking about this, I actually have started to play with some of the iPad capability and such out at some events. And gosh, I'm really surprised. In the right situation, and I think that's I got to kind of preface that, and it's generally related around lighting. It's really incredible what these tablets can do compared to a generation or two ago with with a little bit older tablets.
Right. Yep. Speaking of, you just mentioned lighting. I have some strips here from some previous events. And the fact that you mentioned it's all about lighting, these 2 strips kind of show it.
I'm going to put you to full screen so it'll be a little easier for...
Cool.
There we go.
All right. So this one here with the wood background came out very nice. Everyone, you could see it. You could read all the signs. There's no glare, anything like that. This one, and unfortunately, this is kind of how they came out the whole night. There was some glare. There's that overwhelming kind of red color in the top corner, which was actually from the venue's uplights. They had uplights installed around the room. And for those of you who know, LED lights, like uplights and stuff like that, and iPad and iPhone cameras don't go over too well. So that kind of messed it up, and it almost makes it look a little more grainy and worse quality than if you have the right lighting. So I've noticed with the iPad booths, especially if the venue's house lights are on, or if you're in a different room, if you're where Cocktail was or something like that. I know they do that a lot around here.
Yeah.
If you're in that other room and you could have full light and then you just put a little constant light on you on the booth to kind of add some more, it turns out really good. But anytime you have that LED stuff, or if it's dark in the room and you have to really kind of flood it with constant light because there is no flash like a DSLR, that kind of messes with the quality a little bit. So I just wanted to touch upon that.
You mentioned that of course those were LED fixtures that were doing the uplighting. Now is LED, because some of the different tablet booths are using an LED light source. Does it matter if the light source is LED or fluorescent or something else?
I don't find that it's not totally LEDs. I just kind of use that word loosely. Okay. Like right now, the video lights I'm using on me are LEDs. They're like the newer LED video lights. And my iPad photo booth is right behind me here. This little yellow strip up here is a strip of LED lights too. When it's putting out the white light, it doesn't really affect it. Okay. But it's more of the colored LED stuff. So like the blues and reds and stuff like that, I don't know, the way it reflects off you. I'm not a big camera person, but I just know that from experience, that seems to degrade the quality a little bit. And when you have the right lighting, I mean, you can't even tell the difference between this and a DSLR photo booth strip, because they're shrinking the photos down so small to fit them on the strip. You know, anytime you blow it up, I don't think I have any samples, but I did do one event. For those of you who follow me on social media, you probably saw the red carpet event I did with the step and repeat. And that one, we were doing full 4x6 prints, and the bride wanted the full body in the shot with the red carpet too. And you could see the quality is not totally there with that one. So I wasn't too happy about that, but the client was. So that's all that mattered. They wanted the full shot. It's not, you know, no one said anything like, wow, this is terrible quality or anything like that. It was all about the experience of being there. But I noticed that, you know, I try and push the strips more for that reason.
What were you noticing? Were you noticing a pixelation or slight out of focus, or what was the?
It was a pixelation. The out of focus I don't really get with the iPad booth, because the iPad camera actually autofocuses. And most people who use like DSLRs for their booth usually put it in like an auto mode anyway. Yeah. But I've worked with a few where they run it in manual mode, and when you do that, you will notice sometimes it's out of focus or you can't read a sign or something like that. But with the iPad booth, it does autofocus, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's been my experience also. I don't think I've had out of focus, but I have had where I've had issues with where one person was like overexposed, and then everyone else, you know, so the person the closest was overexposed and everyone else looked great.
Right. That has happened to me too. Generally, depending on how you light it again. Yeah. If you have constant light coming from right by the camera, and then someone gets really close to the camera to take a picture, it's going to wash them out, and the camera is actually going to autofocus to the people in the background and not the person up front. Yeah. So you got to kind of play with it. The other thing I like, which is why I always send an attendant out with my booth. A lot of people say with the iPad booths, oh, they're so easy. People could just run them themselves. Let them sit there and the guests can come up and tap to start kind of thing. But the main reason I send mine out with an attendant is for that autofocus reason, because you could also tap the screen just like you would on your iPhone when you're taking a photo. If you want it to kind of focus or adjust the lighting to a certain area, you could do so. So if you're in a dark room and you tap the door where it's bright out, it's going to make the darker room brighter. Whereas if you tap the darkness on the screen, it's going to make the doorway with the light a little, you know, it's going to pop a little bit more. Sure. It's going to be a little brighter. It's going to focus to that part. So that's one thing I found too, is if you have someone standing there and someone does step closer to the camera, they could tap their face and it'll actually focus to them, creating the whole picture to come out a little better. Sure. Which is kind of cool too.
Yeah, that would definitely be. I guess I hadn't even thought to kind of coach people along on using that capability. But yeah, that would have been nice, especially the time where the bride's there and then her bridesmaids are behind her doing some weird kind of a, you know, something silly where you'd love to focus on her. But she was the one that was basically, okay, everybody get ready. And then she comes in like that.
Right. Yep. And then it washes out her face. Oh, no. And then the pictures print and you don't see her for the rest of the night.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, unfortunately. So what has changed and progressed and such in the line of software, and what have you been finding and what are you using?
Yeah, so now I'm using SnapPick, which I think I used in the last video we did, yep. But not the first one. The first one we were talking kind of about Mobi Booth and Simple Booth, which are still out there, and they're great apps as well, but I've kind of gravitated towards SnapPick for some of their new features and their customer support. So if you guys go to their website, it's getsnappick.com. And you could check it out. There's a chat section that pops up right when you're there. It's going to pop right in your face, and you could talk to them and ask them questions or do whatever you want. And when I first came across their website, that's what I did. I chatted them. I kept asking them questions. And there were a few features where I was like, hey, do you guys have this? Do you guys have that? And they were like, no, but we're working on it. Or no, but that's a good idea. We'll make that for you, kind of thing.
Wow, nice.
So I've actually pointed out a few features and some change requests and stuff like that. And they've made them for me within a few weeks. One of the main things was I run 2 MacBooks most of the time. So I didn't have a reliable PC to run the print software. And they only had that for the PC software. So I was like, hey, I love your app, but I run Macs. I need a Mac version of the print server. And they were like, oh, like, yeah, we've had other people request it, but we've never thought to do it in the past, this and that or whatever. But like the way you explained it, now we get it. Let's make it. So they're like, we should have it within a week. So they released it. They're like, this is still the beta version, but if you want to give it a try, we'll work out any bugs, this and that. So they released it, which is cool. And I've been running that for a while. And now I have PCs that I run it on. But they're very helpful, their support. They listen to the people, the users. For example, now they released digital props very recently, which is really cool. Kind of like Snapchat filters where they'll follow your face. And some other cool features like animated frames. So like your typical frame might stand still, something like that with the text, but now you can do animated frames. So you could do like almost like a video. So say your website is being typed. So it's almost like a video kind of thing, whereas a still image. So that's a cool feature too. You could do the GIFs, you could do green screen, tons of stuff. And when I first started using the software, they didn't really have much of it. But I could see that they were developing it and they wanted to become the best app on the market, which was really cool. And I think they're getting there. And a lot of people have been referring them and sending other people their way, which is really cool too. So along with the Mac server print feature that I asked them for, another main one that I noticed as soon as I started using their booth was, for those of you guys who aren't familiar with how photo booths work, printing, you're printing a 4x6, which is 2 strips together. None of the printers print just strips. They're going to print 4x6s and it's going to cut them into 2 strips. So anytime you choose to print, it's going to print at least 2 or in pairs of 2. So if you need 4 copies, you print 4 copies and you're going to get 4 strips. If you need 3 copies, you're getting 4 copies anyway, because that's how the printer works. So one thing I noticed with the SnapPic server is when you chose 4 copies, it started printing 4 4x6s. So I was getting double, and it took me a little while to realize that's what it was doing. I was like, why is it printing so much? And so I realized that's what it was doing, and I reached out. I was like, hey, is there any way to adjust it for strips so that when you print, when you choose to print 4 strips, it only prints 2 4x6s. So you're actually getting the 4 strips that you want. And they were like, yeah, we didn't even think about that. Like, we'll fix that kind of thing. And the other reason it made that a little more difficult is because with the SnapPic software, as I mentioned in the first videos, you could do that multi-experience type thing where your guests can come into the booth and they could take a 4x6 picture and then they can come back 2 minutes later and take 2 strips. They could take a strip picture. So you can upload multiple layouts and you can do a GIF and whatever you want. And they can choose what they want for each experience, which is kind of cool too. So you could offer your clients even more. But because of that, their print software had to be able to tell the printer whether we're printing a 4x6 or whether we're cutting it in half for strips. So along with that, it also had to tell the app, hey, if you choose 4 copies when you're doing a strip, print 4 strips, which is only 2 4x6s. But if you're doing a 4x6 and they choose 4 copies, you have to print 4 4x6s. So it's not as simple as some might have thought when you first say, hey, when I print 4 copies, I'm getting 8 strips and I only wanted 4 kind of thing. So that was another feature that they added. And also going back to the second video I think we did, I mentioned how I keep mentioning their print server. So the iPad booth has to print. So the iPad has to print to the computer and then the computer has to print to the actual printer. Unfortunately, there's no way for an iPad to print directly to a printer yet. But SnapPic is actually getting there now. And now there is a wired printing solution. So you can't totally bypass the computer, but you can go wired through the computer. So before that, you always had to be on an internet connection or run your own Wi-Fi connection, which was cool, but it's more wires and it's more stuff that could go wrong with your booth. Plus, it's a whole nother knowledge thing that you got to learn how to set up your Wi-Fi network and how to troubleshoot it and this and that. What if there is no service or internet kind of thing. So now SnapPick made it so that you can plug in your iPad directly to your computer and then plug your computer directly into your printer. And I've been using that feature at probably the last 2 or 3 events now, and it's worked flawlessly. I've had no issues, and it actually prints a little faster too because it doesn't have to send over that Wi-Fi network. So it's kind of skipping that step, and it literally just goes right through the cable, right into the printer, and it prints out, which is pretty cool. So it's super reliable, and it's a few less wires and things you have to set up because now you really only need the kiosk itself, the printer, and the computer. You don't need that extra Wi-Fi network, which also includes a power supply and an Ethernet cable to your computer and all that. So it's a little bit less to set up. So that's one of their newest features, actually, is that wired printing option, which is really cool.
And with that, then the laptop is charging the iPad, so your iPad's not running down, correct?
Correct. Okay. And what I did, so this is my kiosk, the new kiosk behind me, which is like a super slim kind of metal stand.
Now, did you make this one, or is this something you purchased?
I did not make this, actually. I bought it. It's from Shuttercube. They make photo booth backdrops and stuff like that as well. But I bought it from them. It was one of their prototype models, and now they kind of fixed it, and they actually made a version with the printer stand behind it too, which you've probably seen with a lot of DSLR booths.
Very much so, yeah.
I think they like the Alien Bees and stuff like that, where they have a printer stand right behind them. So his version now includes that, but this is just the Slim Cube stand for the iPad with the built-in LED. But this is 4 feet tall. So unfortunately, I can't use a standard iPhone cable to connect my iPad to my computer because I have to go all the way out to the bottom, come out of the kiosk, and then get up to my table or my prop table or wherever I'm putting the printer. So I went on Amazon and bought, I think they're 10-foot or 15-foot iPhone cables.
Yep.
And I bought 3 of them, and they work great. So yes, the computer is charging your iPad, which is cool. And with that, so now the printing is relying on the cable, which is cool because now your internet is totally separate. So whatever Wi-Fi network you choose to be on is totally separate. They're not connected, meaning if you choose to connect to, say, Optimum Wi-Fi or a hotspot or something like that, and you lose connection of that hotspot, you could still print for that event. You don't have to worry about it stopping, printing and telling guests, oh, hold on, we got to wait for the internet to catch back up or whatever. Mm-hmm. So your printing will always happen when it's wired. But the fact that you can connect to Wi-Fi or internet or your phone's hotspot or whatever now and not have to rely on that for printing is cool, because you could offer your clients texting and emailing and social media and all that now. And they can enter it right after they take their session. But if there is no internet at that second, it will just go into a queue and it will send out when there is internet. So, if your hotspot loses connection for a second, those photos will queue up, and then as soon as it reconnects, they'll send right out while the photo booth is still going and still printing and everything like that. So that's cool because you can confidently send out your photo booth with the text and emailing option, which is cool as well.
Yeah.
So that's one of my favorite actually features of the wired printing, more so than the fact that it's wired. I didn't really mind setting up a Wi-Fi network, but the fact that I can now offer texting and emailing with that, because beforehand, when I set up my own Wi-Fi network, I didn't have internet. I just set up a wireless router.
Yep.
So there was no way for me to text or email during the event. I would have to wait till the end, connect to Wi-Fi, and send them all out. So that's pretty cool now because I can offer that and printing at the same time.
Brandon, I've got some questions here that we might be able to tackle here.
Sure.
If you got a second. Let's see. Somebody was asking about what kind of a price are you seeing on the an iPad booth like you've got behind you?
Meaning what I'm selling it for, or the software?
Well, that's the next question. But right now, just to get the material, or as far as the stand or the booth itself or the podium, what have you.
So the booths, this Slim Cube is actually not a model that you could buy from his site. Like I said, it was like a prototype, but now he has the version with the printer stand. Don't quote me, but I want to say it's around 1,700 in that range, under 2,000, but somewhere in the mid 1,000, high 1,000 range.
Sure.
There's also the Mobi Booth options,
Yep.
which is from the same company that makes the software. They have like the Mobi Booth Aura and stuff with the ring light of LEDs, which is a great kiosk as well. And I think that's in a similar price range. That might be low 2,000s. That's for the stand itself. And then you buy the iPad, which is a couple hundred, and the printer or whatever. But you don't even need the printer, which is cool because you could offer just a social sharing kiosk, and just run it as like a social booth. So they could take their photos and then text or email to themselves, upload it to Facebook, and you don't even have to print, which is cool too.
Well, let's go to that question. People were asking about, is it possible with the software to capture email and or cell phone for marketing purposes?
Yes. So we'll split into two different directions with this. You can gather their information via what they call data capture. So when you set up the event, I'm going to switch to the screen sharing quick if you want to make me full screen. Let's see. Desktop. Let me know when I'm up there.
Just about.
Cool.
There it is. Okay.
So this is their website. When you log in, this is what you'll see. This is like my dashboard. So it tells me I've had 22 events to date. I have 2 live events, which means they're running right now. I could open them up on the iPad. And then it tells me how many shares. So people have shared their photos 3,226 times, and how many total photos have been taken, which is cool. So if I go to one of my events, this is one I've got coming up this weekend. So if I go to, here it is, event options, there's going to be a data capture option. So this is where you could choose your printing, your social media, email, texting, and data captures right here. So the email and texting options is going to be for your guests to email and text their photos to themselves. And there is a way to collect that information. So back to the dashboard, you can actually download an Excel spreadsheet of an event, and it'll have all the texts, the phone numbers, and the emails that went out for that event.
Yep.
Which is pretty cool. So if I go right here to view these here, it'll show you. Now this event hasn't really had too many, but it'll show you how many texts, how many Instagrams, how many everything has gone out, how many prints. And like I said, this is all pretty much just test stuff, test texts and test prints, because I haven't had this event yet.
Yep.
But this is where you could view this, and you could download that Excel sheet, which is pretty cool. So that's one way to gather phone numbers. But technically you don't have their permission to then text and email them.
Right.
So you got to be careful with that. So if you go to the data capture option, that actually allows you to set up pretty much a kind of survey at the end of the photo session. So after they take their photo strips, that data capture will pop right up, and you can make it optional, or you can make it a mandatory thing, and you could add check boxes. You can add, it's kind of like a Survey Monkey type thing. You can customize it, and you could say, hey, are you getting married soon? Or can we email you? Would you like to receive our offers? What's your phone number? What's your name? This and that. So you could do that kind of stuff, which is really cool, especially if you're doing bridal shows with this booth, because you could bring it and collect their information that way. So instead of doing your typical iPad or computer or regular form sign up sheet, you could say, hey, go take a picture in our photo booth, and then it will prompt you with some questions, and we'll have your information, and we can text and email you from there. And with the data capture, it's a very similar thing. It'll send you an email, and you could download a spreadsheet. You could do whatever you want with it. So that's a cool way to gather the guests' information.
Sure. And that bridal show thing, I think, is just kind of a fabulous little way to get that out there, have people have a little fun with it. And you mentioned that the new version has some animated like Snapchat filters on it.
Yes. So there's a few options. There's animated GIFs, which you could do a regular GIF or a burst GIF, which they actually had in the last video we did. It's not a new feature, but they added animated layouts. So let me see if I do have one set up. So This would be your normal GIF, and this is with their models, of course. But that's the frame I made. I made that candy cane thing with the little Christmas lights and the name at the bottom. That's the frame. That's the regular GIF. And then I made an animated frame where it flashes between that frame and just a red and green one.
Okay.
So that's a very simple version of it, but you can make up to like 12 frames in an animated GIF. So you can have Santa flying across the top, across the photo. So while your photo is going around, you're doing whatever, Santa's flying across the top of it or something like that. So that's the animated GIF. And then the new feature they added is the digital props, which with some other photo booths is kind of like a click and drag thing. Like after you take the session, hey, let me drag a bow tie onto Uncle Billy kind of thing,
right,
or something like that. But they actually have a Snapchat filter version that is going to, let me see if I have it on here. I wonder if I turned it off. Let's see. Here it is. So on this one here, let me bring you guys up so you can see it. At the bottom of the screen there's the props that you could choose from.
Right.
So I've got like a bow tie and elf hat and stuff. And let me just get me in the camera's view. Kind of have me. Okay. You can see the hat popping up there. My whole face has to be in the frame, so. But that's the hat. There's like a bow tie, stuff like that, a Santa hat. So there's some cool stuff like that, and they'll move with you as you move. The only downside I see to them right now is that whichever one you choose is going to be applied to every person in the photo for all 3 photos. So if you're doing a photo strip with 3 photos with 6 people in it, they're all going to have Santa's face for all 3 photos.
Oh, really?
So there's only so much you could do. Whereas like real props, you know, you could change them in between photos and everyone could have a different one and stuff like that. But it is a cool idea because, as we mentioned before, the kind of social booths, sending a booth out with just this stick, battery powered, you don't even need a printer, you don't need props or anything anymore, because they could use digital props, they can come take a picture and go do what they have to do. So that's a cool feature if you run like an amusement park or a haunted house or something like that, or, you know, Santa's Land in the mall. You could put this mid-line or mid-queue for Santa to go take pictures, so people could stop, use this booth quick, and then go continue online to meet Santa or whatever they're going to do. So that's kind of a cool feature, you know, if you're waiting in line in an amusement park. Let's take a quick picture and use some props. So that's a pretty cool add-on, because now you don't need any external props or anything, which is cool.
Let's see. One of the things that was earlier, a question that we didn't get to, what is an iPad booth going out for, kind of a going rate for that compared to a full photo booth? Because obviously if you're doing a social booth, you probably have one cost. If you're doing a printing iPad booth, and then if you're doing a DSLR, it's probably a third.
Right. So I'll kind of tell you guys in my area. I'm in New York, Long Island specifically. But of course, this is going to vary. So you can't take these numbers and run with them if you're in Arkansas or something like that. It's going to be totally different. But in our area, a normal photo booth with a DSLR kind of thing, we all do unlimited prints, stuff like that, runs upwards of $1,000 or a little bit over, like $1,000 to $1,200 for a 4-hour photo booth. For the iPad booth, I send it out for like $695, $700 to $800. That's with prints, with props, everything like that. The social booth, I haven't sent out yet, but the pricing I'm working on for it is like $450, $500.
Sure.
So you can see there's a couple hundred difference between the 3 options, because, you know, you don't have the printing with the social booth, so it's saving you money in media and stuff like that, and that's kind of meant to be a cheaper option. If you're having a kid's first birthday, a whole bunch of 1-year-olds have to go home with photo strips? Probably not.
So much. Yeah, Mom.
You know, and if you're doing a Sweet 16, everyone's got cell phones now. Maybe they'd rather have the digital than the actual strip. So that's kind of the going rates in my area. But of course, depends how you market it. You know, you can get whatever you want really for it. So.
Let's see, software. You mentioned that was the Mobi Booth software, correct?
This one is the SnapPick software.
SnapPick, excuse me. Get SnapPick.
Yep. Yep, getsnappic.com.
Okay, because we've got people who are asking about that. What kind of how do they charge with that? Is it something where you buy the software and you have a monthly subscription that goes with that?
Yeah, so the SnapPick, I think I have some prices here. So there's a few different options that SnapPick gives you, which is cool compared to some of the other softwares as well. Like in the first video, Simple Booth was a one-time fee. It's like $80 and you have it forever.
Yep.
Whereas some other ones, I think like Curator and some of the other big name ones will be like, or like Simple Booth Halo, for example, the upgraded version will be like $400 a month. That's the only option. It's like crazy. So Simple Booth gives you a few different options to pay. There's a starter version, which is per event. So you can pay $19 per event and use the photo booth. The features are a little limited, so you could pay a little bit extra and unlock certain features, maybe like texting and emailing or something like that. I've never done the pay per event, so I don't know what features it comes with. But there is also some upgraded ones where you pay monthly. So there's a $69 version for the pro version. So that's going to get you X amount of features for $69 a month. And then the version I run is Enterprise, which is their top of the line software, and that's $169 a month. So I pay $169 a month, and I get pretty much all the features. You get so many texts that you can send out, so many emails. You get the data capture, custom websites and galleries, and all that stuff. Now, so that's pretty much the pricing and the way you can pay. And to see those prices, if you guys are interested, you could visit their website, www.getsnappic.com/pricing. And you'll see all the packages laid out and what they're including and all that.
Do you have multiple booths then that you send out? You can do more than one, or are you just doing one at this time?
So right now, I'm just doing one. I only have 2 iPads, so I technically could send out 2, but I like to just have a backup with the other one. Although with the iPads, I can't really see anything going wrong, whereas like with the DSLR photo booth, the camera could break, the touchscreen could break, whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas with the iPads, I mean, I feel like they're pretty robust, like some other Apple devices too. But I'm a big Apple fan. But other than that, speaking of having 2 iPads, the other thing I'll do with it is this stand here is like an iPad kiosk stand that you might see in the mall or at an amusement park kind of thing. So it sits on like a base plate. So I have one of these, and oftentimes I'll run the second iPad. You can run the same SnapPick app and open up what they call their sharing station. So in the regular SnapPick app, there is a gallery option, which basically allows you to see all the photos that were taken at this event so far. Mm-hmm. And then you can recall any one of them and print, email, text, share, whatever you got to do with that photo. Very nice. If a guest comes back up to you later in the night, hey, we lost this print, or hey, can we get another copy? Yeah, sure. Find it in the gallery and you could send it right out. So with the sharing station on that separate iPad, guests can go over to that and instantly see it. They'll be uploaded and updated right away. And then they could resend, text, email, and print straight from that sharing kiosk. So if you're doing a school prom or some big event with a lot of people, you can keep the line moving rather than have everyone stay in your booth and enter their phone numbers and enter their emails and, oh, what's my Facebook username again? Trying to upload it to Facebook. They can go to this separate sharing kiosk and do it from there. SnapPick offers what they call additional licenses. So for the $169 a month, you're allowed to run one booth at a time and one sharing kiosk at a time.
Okay.
And then you can purchase additional licenses for, I think it's $19 or something like that. Additional sharing kiosk and an additional app, main photo booth app. So with that said, you could run like 5 sharing kiosks if you wanted to. If you have a huge prom, you could run 5 sharing kiosks, just purchase additional licenses and send people to different kiosks, kind of like when you go to get off an amusement park ride and you're trying to find your pictures. Yeah. There's 5 stations you can walk up to and your pictures are on all of them. So it's a very similar thing, which is pretty cool. And speaking of that separate kiosk app, because of the wired printing now, you could actually wire that kiosk to a separate printer. So you could run 2 printers at a time. So if people are printing a lot of photos, you can actually send the main photo booth to one printer and send the kiosk to another printer. So if one group photo needs, say, 4 copies, print 2 copies on one printer and send them to the sharing kiosk to print the other 2, or you could have the sharing kiosk by you and print the other 2. So you're going twice as fast actually, because you have 2 printers and 2 ways to send to the printer.
Right, dividing
so
workload.
That's a cool option too.
Does SnapPix work with a like a Droid based tablet?
That it does not.
Okay.
Currently, it's just an iOS app. I don't know if that's a feature they're planning on adding, or if they're going to keep it just an iPad software.
Okay. Yeah, they're talking
But as I mentioned, the print server is available for Mac and PC, and they also have a Windows slideshow app which you can download for your PC. And again, just like the sharing kiosk, all the photos will show up there and they'll cycle through a slideshow. So if you wanted to hook up like a huge TV or screen monitor on the back of your booth, you could do that and have it do a slideshow. I know some people offer that with the DSLR booths.
Okay. So we answered the question. We got the URL. I'm just going through and making sure between Facebook and YouTube that we're getting all the questions answered here.
Another cool feature,
please.
I don't know if anyone asked about it, but I actually asked myself earlier today and then found out the answer, was if you can save individual photos. It never really mattered to me. I knew you could in Simple Booth, but I've never really had a need to save individual photos. So if you take like a 3 photo strip, to actually save to your computer all 3, so you can pull it up as just a regular picture without the overlay. And I found out today you can, but you have to choose it when you're setting up the photo booth. You have to choose the layout and check off a box that says save individual photos. Because I thought about it today. I was like, oh, I'll go download the individual photos. I'll pick the good ones and I'll put them up on the website, or make a quick video where they're cycling through different poses or something like that.
Right.
And then I learned the hard way that you have to choose it in order to be able to download those. But I will be doing that in the future because that's a cool feature too.
Let's look at the iPad a little bit. You're using an iPad Pro, correct?
I'm using a iPad Air actually.
Oh, so you've got one that's a generation older. So is there have you noticed any size limitations that somebody should be aware of? Because there's obviously different size iPads with their hard drives or their storage.
Yes. So with Simple Booth, that was a big issue because they save the photos directly to your camera roll. So if you have a 16 gigabyte, I don't even know what the lowest is, but if you have a 16 gigabyte iPad, you can only save so many photos from that event. SnapPic is all online, cloud-based. So it doesn't save anything to your camera roll. There isn't even an option for that. You could save it to their cloud or Dropbox or both. So you don't have to worry about storage on your actual iPad at all, just enough to download the app and whatever else you want to use your iPad for. So you don't have to worry about storage on your iPad. And the other thing is you don't have to worry about having internet connection because, like I said, they all queue up. So if you're doing an event and there's no internet, there's no sharing, it's just printing or whatever, you don't have to worry about not being able to upload to the cloud. They'll all add into a queue. And then when you get home or back to your hotel room or whatever you're doing, you can connect to the internet. They'll all upload to the cloud, and then you download them from the cloud to your computer. And that's how you get the digital files to put on a flash drive for the client or post on Facebook or whatever you want to do. So
are you,
you don't have to worry about the physical storage.
Are you selecting the size of the image that it's uploading then at that particular time, or is it doing any compressing of that so it's a smaller image that it's uploading?
I don't believe it compresses it. I believe it's uploading the full image. I know when you choose to download them from their website, it sends you an email with a zip file that has all of them in it.
Okay.
So it compresses it at that point. So you get the email instantly, and then you download the email, extract it, and you have a folder with all the photos in it.
Now, behind you, with the stand you were showing us earlier, it has the one strip of LED lights. Now, are you using additional LED lights to use that, or are you just using that strip?
So it depends. This strip actually, I found puts off a little more like blueness in the LEDs than like more of a pure white, which you will notice on like the skin tone and colors in the pictures. So I like to use these external video lights, which I'm actually using to shoot this video.
Sure.
So I'll set one of them up on a tripod, and I actually more recently, there's a little silver bolt up here. I actually drilled through and put a bolt up there so that I could screw the other LED, because it's just a normal tripod mount. So I put the bolt that's the same size as the tripod mount up there, so I could screw it right up here. So I'll have another LED up here too. And occasionally I get guests complaining, oh, that's bright, I'm blind now.
Yeah.
But I'm like, suck it up because your photo's going to look good.
Yeah, but
So,
there's the
but like I said, it depends on the venue and the lighting situation. If I'm in the cocktail room and the house lights are on the whole time, I can get away with just this light, just to kind of fill a little bit or make the signs less dark or whatever. But if I'm in the reception room and I know they're going to shut the lights off, I set up an external light, if not two of them, just to really wash it out. But you have to be careful with too much light too, because if you're using the PVC signs, they're very reflective. So you'll get huge glares and you won't even be able to read the signs, which has happened too.
Does your iPad have a SIM card in it, or is it a LTE, or is it just Wi-Fi?
It's just Wi-Fi. So that's something too. If you wanted to get a iPad with the cellular service included, hooked up to your phone plan, you could do that and then send texts and emails out that way. Both my iPads are just Wi-Fi versions, so I have to connect to internet or get a hotspot or something like that.
Right. Cool. I think we've gotten through all the questions. If anyone has any last questions here, we're going to be wrapped up here in just a couple minutes, because it's going to takes me a little bit more time to get switching shows between a regular show and a music show. So, Brandon, there's been some great information here. I've been playing with it enough now. I think I'm going to go check out the Snap Pics, because now I think I know, or maybe there's a more comfort level with this whole process. And initially, just using something simpler to get started worked well. But now, as you're showing some of the advanced features and talking about that, it's like, ooh, that's really cool.
Right. Yep. It was the same thing with me when I started. Simple Booth was the Simple Booth was even too much for me. And when I started with SnapPic, I mean, it took me 2 hours to set up before an event, because I was like, wait a second, why is this spinny wheel just keep loading on my event? It's not loading the event. And then I finally caught on that I have to sync the event at my house while I'm on internet every time for it to get the latest features and all the information. Oh. And then I can go to an event without internet, open it right up and roll. But I wasn't doing that for a while. I wasn't even touching the iPad until I got to the event. So then I'd have to turn on my phone's hotspot, sync it quickly, and then turn the hotspot off. And so I've worked out all the kinks, and once you figure it out, I mean, it's easier than any other photo booth I've run. And I've run the DSLR booths and all that, and it's way easier, way less things to go wrong. Every once in a while, the print server will decide not to print, and then you just have to exit out and open it back up. But I'm pretty sure everyone can troubleshoot that. It's nothing crazy, you don't have to worry about the flash sync cords on a regular booth and all that. So it's cool.
DJ Brandon asked here if has the app crashed on you during an event?
SnapPic has not. Moby Booth, when I first started trying it, did crash. And Simple Booth actually never crashed too, but SnapPic definitely has not crashed on me. One time I had the PC print server crash. I opened it back up and I was good for the rest of the event. I've never had an issue with the Mac print server, but the app itself has never crashed on me.
Yeah, and with Simple Booth, that's what I've been using, and it has not crashed. I did have one situation where someone was able to click out of it. I believe if they push in or keep their finger in a certain spot for a certain amount of time, then it will pop out of the app.
Okay.
And that
there's also an option for that. I'm not familiar with it because I don't use it because, like I said, I always send an attendant out and he's the one touching the booth. But there is an option in the settings. I think it's under, what do they call it? Something, I don't know, something with the iPad settings. There's a way to set it up where you can actually lock the iPad in its current app.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
And then you have to triple tap the home button and enter a password to get out of that app. So that's a cool way to set it up if you're letting the photo booth sit there too.
Good point. Yeah, that's in the settings area somewhere in there.
Yeah,
I remember.
But totally forget what it's called.
Now that you mention it, I remember that being there.
I think it's under accessibility, something like that.
And DJ Barr was just asking a question, and so we're ahead of him by 30 seconds. So we've answered that question ahead of him. So I'll get that in just a second. But that was, in all my time, I think I've run it now at 6 different events, some high school dances and weddings my weddings this fall. And at one time they clicked out of it. Otherwise, it's been one of those things that I set it up before the event. let it sit there the whole night, and at the end of the night,
Right.
come take it down, boom, 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 put the iPad. One thing I have been finding is at the end of the night, I've got some alcohol, screen cleaning or glasses cleaning, and just cleaning the iPad really, really well after all the people
Yep.
touching that. It's just,
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
Same with the props too. Got to keep the props clean.
Yeah, a lot of the props are my hats and such. I just the fabric ones, they go to the dry cleaners every
Right.
once in a while, or if you're in Minnesota at this time of the year, we just leave them outside for a couple of nights, and everything's frozen and it kills everything. So parental
works
control,
too.
yeah, that parental control. So, well, great. We're gonna bounce here, gang. I put the link for our next show. I wonder if I have that yet here, and I can get that over. I don't know. I don't have it. I must have lost the Chew, but we're going to be on Chew.tv with our next show. You can go out there to Chew.tv//Disc Jockey News, and that will get you there. And we'll be doing the music show in just a little bit. Brandon, I want to thank you for your time and your knowledge. You've got a lot of great stuff here for us, and we will be back hopefully in just a few minutes. Thanks for watching. And it didn't clear. We're going to try again.